Welcome to season 15 of the Parenting Aces podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Stone, and this week we are talking about a new piece of hardware with accompanying software to help your player get in those extra reps that they need to hone their skills on and off the tennis court. I am super excited to bring to you guys John Davey of Fast Track Tennis. And if you are listening to this as opposed to watching it on our YouTube channel, I want to encourage you to actually go to YouTube and watch it on our channel because John is going to share some video of Fast Track Tennis in action. And I think it will kind of help you understand what this phenomenal new product can do to help your child. And I'm really excited that he is willing to give a discount to the Parenting Aces community. So you'll have to check the show notes for that discount information. So I want to make sure you do that and check the show notes on our website or on whatever app you're using to consume this podcast episode. But this is a really cool new addition to the tennis landscape, and I'm thrilled for y'all to learn about it. Before I bring John on, just a quick reminder, I am here for you to do one-to-one consults. If you have any questions or issues you're dealing with in terms of your child or your family's tennis journey, please go to parentingaces.com, click on our online shop, and book a consult with me. I love getting online with you guys, working one-on-one to talk through whatever issues you're facing and to come up with some solutions together to make this journey more pleasant for everybody involved. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with John Davey of Fast Track Tennis. Welcome to Parenting Aces, John Davey. It's very nice to meet you, and it's such a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm really delighted to be here and look forward to spending some time with you.
Absolutely. So before we jump into the meat of our conversation, I would love for you to give our audience a little bit of your background, your tennis story, and that way they'll have a better idea of who you are and why we wanted you with us this week.
Well, you don't have to worry about me getting too, braggadocious, whatever that word is. But yeah, I fell in love with tennis early on. I was probably 8 years old, and I saw a lot of people playing it, and literally, it was my first love in life. I kind of taught myself to play against a wall. I wound up playing in high school. I never had I never played enough tournaments to have a ranking. So I didn't have like the typical tennis journey that a lot of the, high performance kids did. But I hit a lot of balls against the wall and, hung out at the court. I pretty much lost to everybody. Didn't matter who it was. But I got reasonably good. I wound up getting a couple scholarship offers and wound up playing in college. I played at University of Vermont. I played number one singles there for the better part of 4 years. And after that, I actually went out and tried my hand on the tour, playing satellites. You never would have heard of me. Again, I lost a lot, but it was great. I loved it. Sadly, I got injured, and that kind of ended my career not too long after I got started. And after that, I kind of traded in my shorts for long pants and became an investment banker on Wall Street. So kind of a little bit of an odd journey, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, for sure. And what part of the country did you grow up in?
I'm from Michigan originally.
Oh,
And
wow. Okay.
I live in Connecticut now, and I went to college in New England. And what I did notice was tennis culture is very different from region to region. And in the Midwest, big tennis community and a lot of stuff going on. Maybe not quite so much in New England, but still there's a lot of players here. I look back at some of the players that came out of the Midwest, and I'm just in awe of some of these guys and how well they've done.
Yeah, for sure. And so making that transition from investment banking to entrepreneur, what lit that fire for you?
Well, look, there's a lot of things. I was probably taking about 100 to 200 plane rides a year, traveling around the country. My kids were younger, and I wasn't seeing them a lot. And, you start to realize what's important. And for me, it was being there more for my family, doing something that I really felt strongly about doing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with making money, don't get me wrong, but, that was not really what I wanted to do. And so, I kind of took a left turn. My wife was very supportive. My kids, they didn't really have much of a choice in the matter. And that was it. So, no looking back.
Love it, love it. The story of entrepreneurship is always an interesting one for everybody involved, and I always love hearing people's journeys around that. So now you are the CEO and the founder of Fast Track Tennis. Can you explain to our audience what Fast Track Tennis is
Sure.
and why you felt like this was something missing from the tennis ecosystem?
Yeah, and it's a great question. I'll try not to bore everybody to tears here, but I had actually started another business, raised a bunch of venture capital, built it up, sold the business, and my wife had gone back to work. My kids were off to college, and I was kind of looking around, saying, "What am I going to do?" And I wound up volunteering at a couple clubs nearby, and one of them said, "Hey, we want you to, take on more responsibility here." And I was kind of like, "Ew, I don't really want to do that." But I said, "Okay, I'll give it a shot." And so I got a firsthand glimpse of sort of what it was like being at a tennis club, dealing with tennis parents, watching the kids, that whole sort of process. And what kind of frustrated me the most was that a lot of kids would drop out. Parents were sort of unrealistic in their expectations. They'd think, okay, little Timmy takes a couple lessons, he should be, qualifying for Wimbledon next year. A lot of the pros weren't necessarily focused on sound fundamentals. And, I started to kind of pick apart things that I didn't like. And I thought back to my own sort of origin story hitting against a wall. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if we could kind of create something that enabled players to get a lot of reps on their own, where they don't have to go to the club, they don't have to find somebody, they don't have to take a lesson, but they can maybe in their driveway, their basement, their garage, work on their technique. And so that was the kind of the origin of fast track tennis. And in talking about this with different coaches and things like that, a lot of different people. One of the critiques was, well, how do I know if I'm practicing the right way? So that really sort of launched me on this journey of computer vision, which is, if you ever drive on the Mass Turnpike or, across the George Washington Bridge, with Easy Pass, they can read your license plate, with a camera. So we do the same sort of concept where we're tracking the ball in a very small space, but we can see how fast it's going, how much spin it's got on it, and where that ball would have landed on the court. So that opens up a lot of statistical information, but also the ability to gamify things and create different challenges. So, I kind of wanted to create something that would be fun and an alternative to World of Warcraft or, Grand Theft Auto or whatever these video games are that I have no idea how to play, but I've heard about. And so that's kind of what I've done is created this hardware system that it's a hit capture return. So it tosses the ball out to about 8 or 10 feet and you hit the ball back into the net. It drops back down into a machine. So it's an infinite loop. It'll just keep tossing balls and you keep hitting. And then the software actually is on your smartphone, uses the camera, iOS, and we track all this data and make it fun. And we're building that up too. So we've got a patent on it, and it's all very cool.
I love it. I love it. And this is something that, again, people can have at their home. It can be used at clubs to supplement
Right.
court time for juniors or for anybody really, and can also be used in schools or parks to introduce tennis to kids that might not have access to court time.
100%. And, again, harkening back to kind of my own story where, I didn't have winter tennis. I didn't have the ability to, do that kind of stuff that, seems to be the, standard operating procedure nowadays, which contributes to obviously the length of time and the cost structure for getting good at tennis, right? Because you need to get a lot of reps. So I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if people could do this at home, right? So if, for example, you take maybe a private lessons one or twice a week, or a group lessons once, twice a week, what do you do in the other 5 days? And, wouldn't it be great to be able to get a lot of reps in and work on kind of similar to, elements of the Spanish method that you see now with coaches hand feeding and they're working on repetition and, rhythm and consistency, things like that. And technique really is what it's all about. And so, interestingly, my very first sale went to a college team, and I was kind of surprised. And I got written up in a periodical, and somebody saw it, and so a college team bought a couple of them, and they wanted to use it for rehabbing players in the off season. And I thought that's interesting. Since then, we've sold to literally, I mean, a ton of colleges. We sell a lot to high school coaches as well. And, you'll have some teams where maybe in the off season they'll set it up in the gym. Other teams will take it for warm up before matches when they go on the road. Coaches will send it home for those kids that are rehabbing or working on something. And, we see here in the Northeast a lot of no cut programs in high school. So kids just don't get the opportunity to get a lot of balls. So that's what I wanted to solve. And then, sort of, the passion project for me was to go into these non-traditional places where kids probably never even have the opportunity to get exposure to tennis. And so I've gone into boys and girls clubs and YMCA's, and we're starting to, do that now with a program designed to, get kids started in an accelerated learning program, so that they get introduced to tennis and they learn the fundamentals. They can get out on the court and have enough skill to be able to hit the ball back and forth and really decide for themselves if they like tennis, right? Which is one of the challenges to the game. It usually takes a while to get to that point. So we're trying to compress that timeline and accelerate the learning curve.
So if you are watching this on our YouTube channel, you're going to see Fast Track in action right here. John, tell us what we're looking at.
So basically, it's a 7x7 net that's portable, and it sets up, pretty much anywhere. You can see Zena Garrison here. We'll talk hopefully a little bit about my partnership with her. But we're in a gym in Houston and have a bunch of kids going, and we're basically looking at here are the overview of the course that we're developing. But you can set this up in your driveway, your garage, your basement, a gym, a tennis court, a cafeteria at a school, whatever you want, as long as you've got a flat, hard surface.
I love it. I love it. And yeah, let's talk about Zena and how she got involved with Fast Track Tennis.
Well, it's one of these like incredible stories. I'm literally sitting here at my desk, and the phone rings, and I pick up, and the voice at the other end says, "Hi, this is Zena Garrison." And I said, "Zena Garrison, I know you." And, because I obviously had, watched her as when I was younger. She and I are about the same age, but I was just very impressed that she was calling me. And so we got to talking, and she's a great, great person, big heart, passion for the game, passion for bringing people into the game. And we both kind of had similar backgrounds as far as our tennis journey goes, but obviously she did a little better than I did. And so she works with the Houston Parks and Rec now. And so they wound up buying a whole bunch of fast track tennis machines. And we started talking, and we've kind of come up with this idea for a program for how we can introduce it to kids in economically disadvantaged areas and get them started playing a lot faster. So, Zena and I are actually going to be speaking at the Texas Tennis Coaches Association meeting coming up in a few weeks. We're on the agenda there. They've got about 650 high school coaches, and so we're really excited about that. And like I said, we sell to a lot of high schools. Texas is a huge market, California, Florida, the Mid-Atlantic, Midwest. We're selling pretty much all over the place.
I love it. I love it. Do you want to end your screen share and we can get your handsome face back up there?
Sure. So you tell me what I need to do. Go back to share.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And screen one.
I think if you just end your share, you'll be good.
Is that it?
You're still sharing.
Still sharing. Okay, so what do I need to do here?
Uh,
Um, screen, content only.
Okay, now we got you back up. A little technical glitch there, but we figured it out. So you're presenting around the country, you're working with Xena to try and get fast track tennis hardware and the adjoining software into a bunch of different facilities. But given that this is Parenting Aces and we're mainly talking about kids that are on the high performance pathway,
Right.
they're looking to play college tennis at some point in the future. How would those families best utilize this product?
Well, I'll tell you a funny story is that I take this places and we'll get, some high level player, a D1 player, and, he tries it out. And it always starts out the same. They sort of start hitting it softly because they think that, they're so strong that they're going to break it. And I say, listen, I can hit the ball as hard as you can, right? I mean, 100 miles an hour, and I show them, and then they start ripping them into the net. And you see the smile start to come across their face. And then I put out cones, right, for them to work on footwork side to side. And the device shoots a ball every 3 seconds. So that's 20 balls in a minute, which you and I both know the average tennis point is probably what, about 6 or 7 shots. And so you start to see these kids, right? High elite level players. After about 45 seconds, the smile starts to fade a little bit, the cheeks start to turn red. And by a minute, they're kind of like, oh. And so, from a fitness standpoint, and again, kind of working on technique, there's really nothing better. I mean, you're not stopping to pick up balls, you're just working on muscle memory. And so, if you want to make tweaks to your technique, to your form, you want to work on your footwork, just general fitness, I mean, again, I mean, if you have the resources to be working one on one with a coach, constantly, great, more power to you. But if you don't have those resources, this is, you can practice at home. You can practice in wherever you want. And so that's what's kind of, I think, new and really innovative about what I'm doing here.
And so you talked about the fact that there's software built into this that captures data. Where does that data go? Does the player pull it up on their phone? Can it go to the coach? Can it be used to, spark some conversation between a coach and a player?
100%. It can be used. We've got so many capabilities, and we're really just kind of getting started with it. Um, you can track your sort of number of hits. You can track your sessions. It's something where, we've gamified it, and there are leaderboards where you hit targets and score points, and you can be playing against people around the world. It's for use with, I've got special pressureless balls. They're not low compression balls, but they're orange with black dots on it, so that the camera can actually see the ball, right, and track some of the data points because we digitize everything. But the balls are, very similar. You wouldn't play a tournament with them, but they're like the old. I don't know, maybe I'm dating myself, like the old tree torn balls that we used to play with, years ago that don't come in a can. And so players can get a lot of data there. We have different fitness challenges. You can set timers to, do certain things. And so there's a ton of stuff there. And again, we're really just getting started. I'm a startup. And so, we've got a patent on this. The technology is amazing for everyone, on the podcast. It's very similar, the computer vision to you've seen swing.vision, right? And so our sort of technical capacity is very similar to that, is that we're tracking the ball. And, but we're using kind of a lot of, sort of values of where the ball would have landed based on spin and things like that. So, it's pretty complicated, but it's very, very cool. And we hope to kind of keep making it better and better. So,
And
but
again, the player sees all of this data in the app on their phone.
in real time. Yeah,
in real time.
which
And
which is
so,
cool. Yeah.
yeah. And so, like, do you recommend that players put their phone on a tripod so they can kind of see what's happening or?
So a couple things. Yeah, if you want to play the game, you want to do the challenges, you want to do some of that stuff. It comes with a tripod. I include that, in the purchase, because everything is sort of mathematical, right? The tripod has to be at a certain height in order to get the right angle on the camera, the focal lengths, etc. But the other thing that I sort of look at as a hidden gem is that you can turn that tripod on yourself, right? And watch your technique, watch where your contact point is. What does your wrist position look like when you're making contact? How consistent are you in developing that technique? You can record that and look at it. You can send it to your coach. You can do a lot of different things. I mean, for me as a kid, I spent a lot of time in front of the mirror, right? Just watching myself, how does my stroke look and where are the tweak, what do I need to tweak? But video is such a powerful tool now. So, there's multi facets to what you can do with the phone. And because the ball is coming to the same spot every time, you can record that, and it's a tool. I've got coaches that will do virtual lessons with players now, and so it's almost like a new frontier that I'm trying to explore here.
I love it. And how do the balls get back into the equipment and how many balls does it hold? So like
Right.
how often
So,
is the player having to kind of reload?
well, look, you can stay on this. The machine will keep running. So it's hit, capture, return. You load the machine with about four balls, and it just goes in a circle, right? So you hit the ball in, it drops back down. Gravity pushes the ones in front of it, and so you never have to stop picking up balls. So in 10 minutes, you'll get 200 hits, right? In an hour, you'll get 1,200 hits. I bet there's not anybody on the face of the planet that's getting 1,200 hits in an hour, anywhere like that. So,
Yeah.
this is, when I talk to coaches, I talk to parents in particular, I'll say, look, have your kid work for 10 or 15 minutes a day, right? They're going to get 200, 300 hits. And, over the course of a week, that's 1,000, 1,200 hits. Muscle memory, that neurological adaptation usually occurs after about 1,000 repetitions. So if you're working on something, obviously, if you're looking at the video reviewing, you can kind of accelerate the whole muscle memory process so that then when you get out on the court, you're just instinctive. And, that's what I try to talk to people about. But don't do it all at once. Don't go 1,200 hits today because you'll be sore tomorrow and you won't want to play, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, you only need to put four or five balls in the machine and they'll just go all day until you get tired or you turn off the machine.
Love it. How much space does somebody need to set this up effectively?
Yeah, I designed it really ideally for a single car garage. So you need about 10 feet in width and about 20 feet in length. The net is, again, 7 by 7. So you'd need to have a little bit of sort of room on the sides, depending on how big your backswing and your follow through are. But 10 feet wide is generally pretty good. If you have more width, then you can start putting in more footwork kind of drills and things like that. Forehand, backhand. I'll do sort of a three-pronged, where it's forehand, backhand, and then a volley, and working on that split step and, all the shots together. And it's really, really, efficient. And you can kind of, I always say you get out of it what you put into it. If you want to improve your technique, this is the way to do it, right? And you don't have to go spend money on a lesson. Or, conversely, if a coach is showing you something and then you want to go home and work on it, this is the perfect place to do it. So I'm not trying to steal from the coach. I'm not trying to do anything other than create a new opportunity and be able to practice away from the court, practice at home. Now that's a thing now for me.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And I think it is important to note that the software is recording all of this data so that the player can then share it with the coach. The coach can take a look and say, wait a minute, you're doing this differently than what we worked on at your lesson. I want you to make this small tweak here. Do 100 more reps, send me that, let me look at it. And that way everybody's on the same page. You make sure that the progress is happening in the appropriate manner, hopefully preventing injury, because we know sometimes kids, well, not just kids, all of us players make technical changes to our strokes that can lead to injury. So we want to avoid that happening. So
Right.
having this interplay between the coach and the player is a really important piece of the whole process here.
We even created something where, and I've talked to some high school coaches about it, where they can sort of send homework and say like, okay, everybody on the team has to, but obviously that means that everyone's got to have one of these, and that gets a little tricky. But yeah, I mean, look, you know it. Everybody on this call knows it. Tennis is a very technical sport, right? And it requires repetition. So that's the thing that holds everybody back. That's what held me back as a kid, right? And once you can kind of solve for that, I think the sky's the limit. And you tend to get better quicker, right? Once you've grasped certain skills, now you can switch your grip a little bit. You can hit half volleys, drop volleys. You can do different things once you get those basic fundamentals down. So my thing here is, I don't want to take away from the coach. I want to take away from anybody. I'm not trying to sliver a pre-existing pie. I want to create a new pie, which is practice at home. You'll have fun. You'll get better quicker, and everybody wins.
Love it. Let's talk about the nuts and bolts of where people get this, what the price point is, and what comes in the package.
Right. So, I am a small company. I'm a startup. And so my cost of goods sold, basically what it costs me to make it, is still relatively high. So the best model for me right now is direct to consumer, right? So I've got a couple of retailers that I work with. One in particular out in St. Louis. They've done a great job. I'm their number one SKU in their store for several years running now. But by and large, you can buy directly from me at fasttracktennis.com. And as we grow, and we're starting to grow, pretty good in Europe, in Canada, Australia, South Africa, around the world, it's becoming kind of a global brand. And hopefully we'll be able to drive the cost down so that then we can start getting into more of those retail stores and getting it closer to people. But I mean, look, in this day and age, everybody's used to buying stuff online, so it's not that big of a stretch.
And what's the price point on it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So the price is, it just went up, sadly, because we've got some tariff issues, which I don't want to talk about. But it's $379.99, so $380. And then there's a small shipping charge. Plus, if you can buy it on Amazon, and there's sales tax. There's no sales tax if you buy it on fasttracktennis.com. And included is the net, the ball feeder machine, a dozen of these practice balls. They're pressureless, so they're long lasting, more economical. There's a tripod in there for your phone with a clip for your smartphone. And there's targets, net targets that go on there, and an AC adapter, and a bag that you put it all in. So you get a lot of stuff, and then the apps are free. What I'm trying to do is get more and more people onto the apps. And I want to get people's feedback as well. Hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? That kind of thing. I talk to all my customers. Anybody calls, they get me on the phone, and I love to hear their stories. So we're truly a startup, and when you call the company, you're talking to the company. You're not talking to outsourced customer service or anything like that. So we're excited.
So basically, for the cost of about 4 lessons, you can get this piece of equipment and the accompanying app. You can use this on rain days. You can use this during injury rehab. You can use this during a tournament for warm up. if you can't get a warm-up court or don't have a warm-up buddy to hit with. And I just think this is such an incredible opportunity to enhance what our kids are getting from their groups and their private lessons. And for the kids that really are driven to improve, and let's face it, most of our kids are, they want to be the best they can be. What an incredible gift to them. This isn't coming out until after the holiday season. We're recording it prior to the holiday season, but I'm gonna just say birthday present, maybe. I don't know. Keep it in
It's
mind.
no, you're spot on. I mean, I think that you hit the nail on the head. You can't teach desire, and the anybody who wants to get better now, this is a tool, right, that will help them get better. It will accelerate that learning curve, the development of muscle memory. When I talked to Tennis Canada, they said this is genius, right? Anything that gets kids hitting tennis balls instead of hockey pucks, right, in their driveway in the winter is a-okay with us. So, that's really what it is. It's kind of a new frontier, and it gives those anybody, right, who wants to improve their game, who wants to, take it to the next level, the ability to get a lot of repetitions in a short time frame.
Yeah, and I just want to let you guys know that are watching or listening, we'll have all the links in the show notes. So make sure you go to parentingaces.com and you'll be able to get all that information, including John's contact info, which he will share there as well. Before we close this up, John, I want to just ask, you mentioned that you're going to be speaking at a coaches conference in Texas, and that will have already happened by the time this airs. But what else are you doing to help educate coaches around the best way to use this tool with their players?
Yeah, so one of the apps that we offer, and the reason I have multiple apps is because they're all so big using computer vision. They exceed if you put them all together, it would exceed the Apple size limits for apps. But one of the apps has a lot of coaching content on there where I've had different coaches provide, video instruction and things like that. So trying to create more of a tool so that in the case of the high school coach who may be the science teacher and isn't that high performance coach, there's some extra tools there. We also sort of put some drills up and say here's some ideas for how kids can use it at home, things like that. I talk all the time with coaches about this, and we kind of sometimes I learn new things. People come up with some crazy ideas that I've never thought of before, and I say, "Wow, that's really cool." But yeah, there's a ton that you can do, from rehabbing to fitness to technique, to organizing team practices, things like that. Getting everybody involved. There's really no limitation, only imagination. What I'm really focused on right now is how can we also bring this into middle schools, right, to build that pipeline for high school tennis and beyond. And my philosophy is I think anybody can be successful at tennis if they're given the opportunity and learn the right fundamentals. The question is, how do you define success? And that's sort of like, it could be, hey, I want to play on the varsity team this year, move up from JV. I want to play singles instead of doubles, or, I just want to have fun with my friends. So, my mission is to give a tool to, anybody from a beginner all the way to an elite level player, something that they can, use that will supplement their game, make tennis easier, faster, less expensive, more fun. Because listen, nobody likes to do stuff that they're not good at. And the better you are at something, the more you're going to want to do it, right? So let's get everybody playing some solid tennis.
Yeah, I love it. And a tool like this helps kids get good quicker. And
Yes.
because it's providing the opportunity for more reps. And the quicker they get competent at this, the more likely they are to keep pursuing it and hopefully become lifetime tennis players, which is a
Well,
really
and
cool one.
and think about it from this perspective also. It's wouldn't it be great if you could go to the tennis court and hang out and there were a lot of people playing there, right? Like more community. And I mean, you see that a lot in Europe, you see it in different places. It used to be like that, I think, a long time
Yeah.
ago. And now it's much more
Certainly when I was
structured.
growing up was absolutely my whole social life was based around the tennis sport. So
Yeah, I loved going to the tennis court, even though everybody beat me, right? But just to be there and you play with the younger kids, the older kid plays with you. It's kind of this continuum, and I want to kind of get back to that where there's more people playing, and the only way to do that is to make it easier and to learn and bring more people into it. So that's really what my mission is all about right now.
my wheels are turning so fast right now about how coaches can use this in group settings and how schools can use it, community centers, public parks. I mean, holy cow, and I'm sure you've already implemented a lot of it, but I think this is a really, really cool piece of equipment and really a game changer, pun intended, for those pursuing tennis at a high level or simply at a recreational level. So John, thank you so much for taking time to come share fast track tennis with our community. And for those wanting more information, again, we'll have the link in the show notes. So make sure you take a peek and go on the website, take a look at it. Great gift idea, just putting it out there. And yeah, I'll be curious to hear from those of you who have tried it or who end up trying it, what your experience is like, and we'll maybe get John back on as he continues to add to the apps and the capabilities of this really creative new addition to the tennis landscape.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
To my audience, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you next time on Parenting Aces.